and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group bi-weekly meeting. It's February 2nd, 2017. We're already into February of this new year. Vesa thinks it's 5 p.m. He is so confused about time. He's never understood it. But so we are here this week. We've got two exciting demos coming up. And so to just kind of get going, for those folks that might be new to the call or new to the Special Interest Group or Patterns and Practices in general, so just to talk a little bit about what we do, the Special Interest Group was formed underneath the larger SharePoint Patterns and Practices umbrella. And what we do is, one, host these bi-weekly calls to talk about all things client-side development and SharePoint Framework, as well as to provide a forum for demonstrations and folks in the community to kind of learn from each other as well as learn from us, which I think is very valuable to get that community involvement and interaction. And then looking at each week, we have an open discussion around the SharePoint framework, new things that are coming out, updates on release timelines and things like that. And then we also talk about the JavaScript core component, which a lot of folks on the call have contributed to or are using, which is fantastic to see. So we'd like to do an update about that on this call as well. So two links down there at the bottom, aka MSSP community, gets you to the Microsoft Tech community, which is sort of the replacement for Yammer. And then dev.office.com/SharePoint is your one-stop shop for all things SharePoint development. So that's including the new SharePoint framework. You've got a ton of how-to documentation, how to get started, make your first SharePoint framework Webpart there, but as well the add-in development and classic server-side development resources can be found there as well. So that's really the one-stop shop for all SharePoint development. Tim's got a question. Is there an updated calendar invite for 2017? Yes, there is. And I can get you that link. I don't have it right in front of me. Maybe, oh, there you go. Vesa's got it. So that's the updated invite for anybody. You can also get that off the links page on the wiki for the JavaScript core library. The invite link is there as well. So moving into our agenda for today, we'll get from Vesa the latest updates on the SharePoint framework. I'll give you a quick rundown on some updates around the JS core, but most exciting this week, we've got two great demos, one from Sergey using Vue.js or Vue.js in SharePoint Framework, which is going to be really cool to see. So Vue, for folks that don't know, is another sort of DOM manipulation framework, very similar to React in a lot of ways, but different as well. So very cool. So it's always neat to see different approaches as things that come out. And then Russell has got a React video library Webpart, which is also really cool. I'm excited to see that in action. I've actually written myself a video library management SharePoint add-in, which was available in the SharePoint store for a while and was the least sold add-in in history. And then an open discussion, hopefully at the end, for folks to have questions and ask us any questions they might have. So I'll turn it over to Vesa for updates on the SharePoint framework.
I'm going to take the slides, few slides, no demos this time, just clarifying and setting up the scene because Sergey and Russell are going to do the demos today. But some updates from the SharePoint framework side. So first of all, Rolf actually asked a quick question on the ION window related on, hey, is the SharePoint framework going to land on SharePoint 2013 as well? Just to clarify again on that one, SharePoint framework is going to be first released pretty soon, actually, to SharePoint Online. So we're now right now in the release candidate mode for SharePoint Online, and then we're looking into getting that shipped on a SharePoint 2016 during this calendar year. So it will be part of these feature packs at some point. We do not have an exact timing on that yet because everybody is working on getting the SharePoint Online release currently available. A few notes on the SharePoint framework, let's say, progress perspective. If you go to dev.office.com/SharePoint, which is the new SharePoint development landing page, which will replace also MSDN, because we will actually gradually shut down MSDN during this calendar year related on SharePoint. Well, it's a longer story. We are moving to docs.microsoft.com/SharePoint, so there will be some URL changes in the future. But into dev.office.com/SharePoint, if you go SharePoint Framework, Webparts, and Guidance, there are 4 new articles. 3 of them actually went live 5 minutes ago, or actually 10 minutes ago. So there's a guidance related on localization with client-side Webpart. So how do you do localization with the release candidate version? Sharing data across client-side Webparts, super important actually guidance. And this relates on the, let's say, classic challenge with add-ins or JavaScript customizations in SharePoint in general, which is that, hey, I have multiple widgets or functionalities in my welcome page, in my portal front page. All of them require, for example, accessing user profile data or taxonomy data. How do I make sure that only I'm loading that data once across all of my web parts or widgets or JavaScript? And that guidance is addressing that particular topic. There's multiple different options to choose from, and it's explaining how to implement that with client-side web parts. So if you do have, as an example, I think the scenario for that one, which we're using in the guidance, is that you are loading recent documents from the Office Graph, and you don't actually want to load that multiple times if you have 2 different web parts with a slightly different presentation on the same page. You only want to load that information once for both web parts, and that particular thing is clarified there. SharePoint Framework Enterprise Guidance came out as well, so that's a relatively long article explaining what does it mean from a enterprise architecture and development perspective, and then another article related on SharePoint team development. So explaining what does it mean, what is the considerations from a conceptual perspective. Both the enterprise guidance and the team guidance are more, let's say, written format explaining things from a conceptual perspective. They're not really hands-on explaining how to Visual Studio or, let's say, TFS would integrate with SPFx. That's still on the queue in our long-lasting queue of articles and guidance which are coming out. Good. So a few items. We have actually updated our existing SharePoint Framework Reference documentation. So the Reference API documentation is available in the dev.rust.com/SharePoint as well. Easiest URL to remember is the AKMS SPFx reference, and this is where we have all of the guidance related on code objects, classes, and everything else. And this is generated directly from code, and we're looking into actually even including code samples and all of that in here as well. Few things, kind of a summary slide on what has happened recently related on SharePoint Framework. So the release candidate came out early January. The written video and tutorials have been updated to release candidate level, and you can find YouTube recordings of the written format tutorials which are available in the dev.rust.com/SharePoint as well. So you can either walk through them by yourself, or you can have a look on the video. What does it actually mean? Sample updates are ongoing, so we are working into updating existing samples to the release candidate level first and then to the GA level relatively soon as well. Getting started with SharePoint Framework training package is getting closer. That was actually exactly the same status 2 weeks ago. Now it's pretty much ready. It's just waiting for me to have time to push it out in the GitHub, in the training GitHub repo. So I need to do some modifications on that. On that one, we will release labs, presentations, and initial structures for this training package, and I will show you what's included in that one in the following slide. And then the video recordings of that one will be released after GA. The GA will happen, like mentioned, relatively soon, but I cannot give you that date even by an accident, because I would compromise my career. Good. More samples under the SharePoint GitHub organization, and there are few pull requests already pending on existing samples, which the persons who have contributed to samples have upgraded those to release candidate level. I do apologize on a small delay on this one. It's just a matter of getting the pull request processed, and we can actually get the updates included. Now, I mentioned the Getting Started with SharePoint Framework. This is actually a super interesting and super powerful package, because this is really hundreds of slides and tens of labs related on SharePoint Framework. And this is something what we will keep on evolving after the initial release as well. So right now, the labs have been tested and upgraded to release candidate level, and this is the time when we will push them out. We will also work on updating them to the GA level when the GA is available. We have 8 bigger modules which are split to smaller sections. And really the idea of this one is that we have kind of 8 specific areas, and those are then split to smaller sections which are individual presentations and individual videos. This way, one module is not 1.5 hours when somebody is recording that video. It will be rather 10 to 15 minutes, and you can more easily find what's relevant for you. This list of small items on a slide is actually those individual sections which are part of the released modules. For all of the sections, we have then presentation video. For many of them are included in the labs as well. Material will be shared in GitHub for anyone, and this is for anyone to use any way what they want. So the whole idea of this one, really the fundamental idea of this one is that, hey, we from Microsoft, we provide training package for the field to consume or redeliver. So if you are a Microsoft certified trainer, or if you need to teach your own company developers how to do SharePoint Framework, there's your package. And what you can do is that you're able to just easily pick and choose which of the modules or sections you want to include to your redelivery of the package, and then you're able to essentially provide that training package to anybody else. Or if you're more looking into learning how to do stuff, you'll just follow up on the labs by yourself, and you get then a nice learning and nice understanding how the SharePoint framework works, how do you integrate that with Angular or React or whatever, and how to use different things. There's quite a lot of interesting topics here. This is Getting Started with SharePoint Framework, so if you're deep into the SharePoint Framework already, this might not actually get you humongous amount of new stuff, but we needed to start obviously with Getting Started, and then when the Getting Started is out, there will be an additional deep dive training packages or material for people to use as much as they want later on. And like mentioned, you do not need to ask any permissions. This is shared for the purpose of anybody to consume slides, labs, presentations, videos, any way they want, anywhere within the world. So we're able to scale as easily and efficient as possible. And if there's any questions around this one, you can use the HTTP SPFx community for questions, and we'll help on people to get started on this as well. Good. And yes, the training package is not yet available, just making sure that everybody actually gets this. So this is pending to go live in a matter of days. It is pending to go live for the sake that I need to have some time to write some MD files and get the presentation published in a GitHub. And after that, we're good to go. And presentations and labs at this point. It says, actually, good point, fair comment from Nigel. It says that it should be out in January 2017, and it is actually 2nd of February, so it is going to go live in a matter of days anyway, so I can update the slide if that's needed. Well, let me do this. Let's actually make sure that if somebody is watching this afterwards, let's and fix that one live with my mouse, which is pretty hard. 2070. There we go. Fixed. Yes, it's a live demo. Thank you for the comment. Cool. Quick additional pointers from a SharePoint framework side, just to mention a few things. If you're looking into SharePoint framework samples, like mentioned, we're still in the progress of getting all of the samples to the release candidate level. It's just a matter of having that time to go through the samples and upgrading them. If you use AKMS SPFx samples, you land into our PMP sample gallery, and with the default filter, which is on the filtering only SharePoint framework samples. There was actually a bug within the search tool. If you wanted to filter only React language or Angular language or knockout samples, that additional filtering didn't quite work, and that's going to be fixed today or tomorrow in devdevelops.com. So that should be good after that. And obviously we need to also update the stuff to the release candidate level. Good. Quick question from AC. What's the difference between examples and samples? This is exactly the same stuff. So if you go to what you're getting from here is a search tool which is giving you what are the samples available from a GitHub. So this is just the easier way to filter what are the samples available in the GitHub rather than going to the GitHub. Up to you to choose the model. You can absolutely go to the GitHub and pull them down, and that's it. Yes, exactly. Exactly the point. Good. Moving on things is probably time to have the same question what we had last time. Now, we're closing into the GA, and yes, we're working on updating samples. We're working on updating documents. We have the reference API documentation. We actually even got some of the old REST documentation from MSD and included in devdevelops.com/SharePoint. The full-fledged REST API reference, that's actually in the works as well, because obviously, the REST API is relatively important for SharePoint Framework, so we're working on getting that as a high priority thing clarifying. There are some unfortunate delays on that one due to numerous internal Microsoft challenges, which I'm not going to go into. It's slightly frustrating every now and then, but that's life in the Microsoft as well. But what's actually needed? And so what's actually missing? If you think about, let's speculate, and this is not true, but GA would happen tomorrow. What would you need to get started on doing production implementation of client-side Webparts? And feel free to actually unmute yourself if that's preferred. Time is absolutely a fair comment. Anything else what we need? There's a question related on SPFx. Can we use Power Apps or Flow as a developer? Well, not precisely. No, they don't quite integrate. Well, there's certain scenarios where you might actually theoretically integrate them, but that's not really the mention of the things. AC commenting plans for shrink wrap, the NPM packages from MSFD DevTools, which is a fair comment. This relates on the challenge of the versionings, and how do we make sure that whenever we are pushing updates on the NPM packages, the existing customizations and client-side Webparts which you have developed will still work properly. And that's absolutely on our side to get still clarified for the GA. And the Lodash debate wasn't that successful for our side, yes. It was a bug on, well, technically it wasn't a bug on our side, it was a bug on TypeScript, which was pretty horrible. This almost seems like the classic story, and I have to do this detour. Old school SharePoint people do remember that everybody was always complaining that SharePoint is super slow, SharePoint is super slow. Actually, quite often, the problem was that it was SQL Server, which didn't have sufficient amount of IOs. If you had a powerful SQL Server, there was no problems with SharePoint. With SharePoint Framework, we have a dependency on numerous libraries like TypeScript. And unfortunately, in a TypeScript, they did a breaking change between TypeScript 2.0 and 2.1, which then impacted our customizations as well, which is a slightly nasty situation right now, and we're trying to figure out how to avoid those in the future. But that's the Lodash debate, essentially. Good, but let's say that we can, okay, the versioning thingy, no doubt. We need to get it clarified. We need to understand how do we make sure that your stuff doesn't break whenever we are submitting new stuff in a SharePoint Online on new versions of the packages. What else is needed? GA tomorrow, if that would be true. It's not true, but what would be needed after that? Have a more detailed questions, RC GA and release post GA audio. Yeah, feel free to switch audio. No worries.
Hey, Vessel, you hear me? This is Andrew.
Yep, all good, all good.
So I'm taking that from what you said earlier, that there's not going to be another release candidate before we go GA. It sounds like GA is a lot closer than that. So my question's about, like, once we hit GA, I know that there's a support stance that Microsoft has to abide by that doesn't really apply to things that are pre-GA with RC and dev previews. So can you comment on the frequency that you guys are going to have with refreshes post-GA? The reason I'm asking is just because it seems like, from my experience and from what I've seen from other people, is that there were a bunch of regressions that hit due to when we did a bunch of the refactorings with RC0. And so I personally was expecting another release candidate and just want to know what your stance is going forward past GA.
You're always asking so easy questions. I can't.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Absolutely. That's why we have this call. So right now we don't have an official statement on that one. So, but it seems to be that we will go live without a second release candidate. So we are getting pretty close on the GA, and I can't give you an official statement related on how do we avoid all of these things in the future. And I wouldn't want to speculate on that particular thing because it's a super important thing to solve as well. I should actually have a Pat Miller on the call for answering that question. So sorry, no comments on that one. But it is cool. An absolutely valid. This is the classic discussion which we've been having within this course related on versioning and avoiding the clashes of changes coming in and all of that. So absolutely get that. And everybody actually in engineering do get the challenge as well. So.
Cool. No, thank you.
Good. Nigel is commenting, so we could have another load dash situation. Well, now let's be clear on the load dash. This is a issue which is reported. It's like 346 or whatever issue in the DevDocs repo. Pretty close, probably, if I remember the number correctly. But the load dash issue was related on somebody messing up things in the TypeScript. And that's a problematic thing, obviously, because we're building stuff on top of the TypeScript. Technically, it would be the same thing as within the old C# development. Somebody would be doing a breaking chains in a .NET 4.0 or 4. Whatever. And yes, it's a super unfortunate situation, and we need to get all of that in a better level as a Microsoft. And I can't actually, I work for Microsoft, so I shouldn't be saying, yeah, it's not my fault, it's the other team's fault. No, it's Microsoft's fault. We do get that. But it is a challenging thing to fix as well. And yes, the shrink wrap absolutely would fix that, because shrink wrapping means that you are essentially setting up your solution to specific versions of the NPM packages, like or specific versions of the dependencies, and then that would actually mean that you're not hitting if somebody is adding a new version and not properly upgrading using the semantic versioning recommendations, you would not actually hit that problem. And well, there's a discussion going on SharePoint 2016. Yes, it will come on SharePoint 2016 later on this year. We do not have an exact timing on getting SharePoint Framework on SharePoint 2016. Now, the Webpack is a completely different thing. Webpack is essentially tooling to do modern web stack development. You can actually use Webpack in SharePoint 2001, technically. Or you can build your JavaScript using Webpack, or use the Webpack in the JavaScript development and use those in SharePoint 2001. So that's a completely different kind of a discussion. So it's just the tooling which you use when you're doing development. Is there a roadmap of being able to create for-profit web parts pages that includes license checking, trial subscription, etc.? So essentially the question is, do we have a store plan for client-side web parts and SharePoint Framework web parts? We do have a plan. And we are actually working on the full story for SharePoint Framework client-side web parts and other SharePoint Framework customizations as well, because client-side web parts is just the first component in SharePoint Framework. We will release additional customization endpoints as well. Now, the store won't be available when we go to the GA, so it will be coming at some point whenever we get the store properly designed and implemented as well, because we don't want to mess up introducing another store which would have random issues, which we all know that, for example, the existing adding model store has certain challenges which we should have addressed, but for a reason or another they haven't been addressed. So
I think these are all really valuable questions, and we don't want to ignore them, but I do want to make sure we've got time to get the demos, so we'll maybe have some time at the end. But let's go ahead and move on. But really appreciate everybody's questions. It's fantastic feedback. It really helps us grow and become better. But do want to make sure we've got time for the demos, and then likely we'll have a little bit more time at the end to continue this great conversation. So just going to move forward a little bit with the slides. So a quick update on the JS core stuff before we get into the demos. Thank you, of course, everybody that's contributed. Really appreciate it. Got some great feedback, as always, since the 2.0 release. So really great to see. Thank you, everybody. So quick updates for 2.0. That is out as of Monday. So we're seeing a rapid uptake in the metrics, thanks to everybody who's been engaged with that and has started using that in their projects. We're now in 339 tenants, and we're servicing 5.9 million requests in January. That's a doubling of the number in December. And then we've also got some updated wiki articles, so you can check out. There's now a developer guide link. So we're working very hard to add articles on how to do all the specific actions with the core library. That's been an ask for a long time as a little bit clearer guidance. So we've tried to listen to that and are working on improving those articles almost every day. So my ask of you is try out 2.0 and let us know your feedback. We've gotten some great feedback and always appreciate more. One thing I did want to mention is we're going to try and move to monthly releases in line with the other patterns and practices library releases, so the CSOM library. That'll be smaller updates typically, but more frequent releases, so monthly cadence. But we do not at this time anticipate any more breaking changes. So obviously going from 1.whatever to 2.0 was a breaking change, but we shouldn't have any big big changes, moving forward. So opportunities to participate: demo a SharePoint Framework Webpart, demo the core library, contribute on GitHub, or provide feedback through any of those avenues are always requested. So do encourage that. And then, great. So we've gotten to the demos.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. And at the beginning, maybe a few words about Vue, because, like Patrick said, maybe not everybody knows what is Vue and what I'm going to talk about. Yeah. And the official documentation says that Vue is a progressive framework for building user interfaces. And in that sense, it's similar to other frameworks or libraries like Angular, React, Knockout, etc. And you would say, why Vue? And from what I see and from what I learned in a few weeks, I can say that Vue is fast. It's much easier to learn. It has very clean and straightforward documentation. You can start using Vue in a minute. Also, it can be easily integrated with any third-party components or framework, like SPFx, for example, and we will see that in a few minutes. And to have an exact answer on this question, why Vue, I think you need to try it yourself and compare it with other libraries you are using to have your own opinion on this topic. So Vue community growing is extremely fast, and today I would say that Vue is about the third framework by popularity, right after React and Angular. And I think that this is a gap that we still doesn't have a sample for Vue.js in SPFx repository. So I decided to fill this gap, and let's get started with the demo. Okay. At the beginning, I want to show you the UI of to-do Webpart. I'm pretty sure you saw different kind of to-dos 100 times, so sorry. You have to to see another one. This very basic web part is just text box. You can input your to-dos, and we can add another one, etc. You can mark as completed when you click. Any appropriate to-do is completely disappearing. So you can also edit this title right there, like my to-dos, and you can put view.js to-dos, and you can refresh the page. You see that the data is persisted under Webpart properties. Now let's take a look at the code. And first of all, I want to say that I'm using here something which is called, in Vue terminology, it's called single file components. What is single file component? That's a file with .vue extension, and this file contains everything you need in order to run a small piece of web component. You see that there is a HTML template. Also, there is a script tag, contains your actual logic for your component, and also styling. So let's open Visual Studio Code. I have components folder here, and there are two components, to-do and to-do item. There are three files. One is component itself called todo.vue. So let's open and see. Template is regular, regular HTML with some handlebar interpolation and some view-related stuff. Also, there is our loop, and there's a child component to the item, which is responsible for displaying our to-do text. And there is a script and there is a style. And you see that on this screenshot, you see that all the code should be enclosed with script and text. But Visual Studio Code still having some issues displaying these view files, because TypeScript IntelliSense works just fine inside script, but what it doesn't work is real-time type checking. For example, I can write something like import my app from, and I can type something completely wrong, and you see nothing. Visual Studio Code thinks that everything is okay. So personally, I don't like this, and that's why I had to use this as this little trick, and to put component into a separate file. The same for the CSS file, you see. Now todo.ts. You see I'm using some decorators which are officially supported by Vue. That's component decorator, that's property decorator, and there are two methods, add to do and completed. Completed is actually an event raised when you click on checkbox and you are effectively marking to do as completed. Also, you see that I'm importing this interesting line, importing my to-do item.vue file, and this line registers to-do item as child component for my root to-do component. We can also take a look at to-do item. It's pretty simple. There is li, and there's a div inside with the text and checkbox. And we can also take a look at the .ts file. When you click on checkbox, there is event, there is completed event, which is picked up by our parent to-do.ts component. and right after that, your to-do item consider it as completed. That's our two components, and if you take a look at the to-do web part, you see that in order to bootstrap our web part, we need to import view, and we need to import our root to-do component, and then inside render method, we need to add this little line with our selector and with our render function. So actually you see that nothing special, and everything works well together. Also, let me show you a configuration which is required in order to run everything, because you see that you see this import to do.view. By default it's not possible, but I'm using special Webpack loaders in order to make this happen. And first of all, of course, we need to include special experimental decorators for TypeScript. Also, you can add you can add Vue.js and externals into the config. And the most interesting and important part is modification of build pipeline, because by default, build pipeline doesn't understand .vue files, and also it doesn't copy some files which is required for function. For example, I don't want build pipeline to copy module.css files. That's why I found this this little trick in order to not to copy these files, because actually all styles will be compiled by Vue loader. You see that this configure Webpack task is adjusted a bit with additional configuration, and this additional configuration adds special Vue loader, which is responsible for loading our single file components and parsing these templates, these scripts, and these styles into separate modules. And also one little modification here: we need to copy our .vue and .css files into the output folder, into the lib. By default, copy static assets task doesn't copy these files. That's why we need also make this little adjustment in order to copy these extensions into the output. So basically that's it. That's all setup required in order to run Vue.js. And you see that actually it's not so difficult, and as a result we have a solid and scalable architecture using modern component-based approach. So basically that's it from my side. If you have any questions.
That's great, Sergey. Thank you. Really interesting stuff. Does anybody have any questions for Sergey there? Really interesting. I think Vue is another great technology to check out. So Andrew's got a question there for you. Any plans to post your sample?
Yes, my sample is available on the SPFx samples repository, and I think it will, we are spending, right. And the question about separate HTML, CSS, right, it is possible to split between separate HTML and CSS files, but in that way you need to do a little bit different syntax. For example, you need to specify template, and then you can use string here, or you can use require your HTML file, etc. For benefits, I can recommend you to read official documentation on Vue. There is a separate section describing all the pros and cons for Vue, and it also contains detailed comparison with other framework like Angular, React, and some others.
Okay. Thanks, Sergey.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, really fantastic. Russell, are you...
Okay, so we've got some videos that are stored in Office 365 Video, and we wanted to present those videos within our SharePoint portal. The current web parts that are available out of the box only allow you to present one video at a time, and we wanted to kind of have a library of videos that users can view. So I've created an Office 365 channel here, and I've uploaded some sample videos to it. And I've created a demo site to show this. There's actually 3 different web parts that I messed around with. There's 3 different libraries: React 3D Carousel, React Slick, and React Cover Flow. Those are different carousel components that you can use with React. I had to try them all to try and figure out which worked best. But the idea is that I call into the Office 365 video service to get a list of all the videos in the channel. I display an image, the thumbnail image for the video, and then when the user clicks on it, I will go ahead and switch it to an iframe to show the video. So the first component is the React 3D Carousel. It's going to take a minute to load here. So this is the 3D carousel. It's displaying the thumbnail images of all the videos that were in our library in the Office 365 video channel. And this one worked well, but there's no way that I can switch it to an iframe because the component doesn't allow me to switch from the static image to an iframe. So I gave up on that one. I moved over to the React Slick carousel library. These are all NPM packages. So the React Slick library worked well. I can toggle around between the different videos, and when I click on one of the videos, it'll actually begin to play. The image tag was replaced with an iframe, and the video started. Well, it should have started. I'm not sure what happened there. I had some issues with the CSS on this one, and I didn't like the layout, so I moved to the final one, which was the React Cover Flow carousel library. And this one, it's kind of a nice library. It supports scrolling with the mouse wheel, so if I just scroll my mouse wheel, I can go to the different videos. And again, if I click on any one of the videos, the image tag is replaced with an iframe, and the video begins to play. So I've added a lot of controls to this one. If I go edit this page, I've made this one highly configurable. The other ones all have hard-coded values. But if I come in to edit the web part, I can change the height of the controls, the various components in it, and generally make a mess of things if I want to. But that's a demo. Let me switch over to the code here. So there's 3 different web parts in the library. But the first, I created a utility class just to talk to the Office 365 video service. This component gets called by each of the web parts. He's got a method to initialize, which just gets all the basic information from the video service by calling the video service discover API, and it saves all the settings away for use later on. Then I've got another method called get all the channels for the tenant, and a final method to get all the videos within a channel. So this library is used by all the different web part components. So I'm going to switch to one of the components that I have here. I'll just go, they're all pretty much the same, so I'm just going to go over the cover flow one. And if I open that web part, you see in the constructor, I go create one of those Office 365 video components. I just create a new object on that, which will connect to Office 365 video and get all the metadata associated with the tenant's video channel. And then in the render method, I just pass that down somewhere in here. Yeah, I pass that down to the component that's going to go ahead and display the videos. And in this case, that component is the video library cover flow. So this method is going to, or this component is going to receive that Office 365 video object, and he's going to go fetch all the videos from the channel. He's going to make a call out to fetch all the videos. And in the render method, we create a cover flow object. That's the carousel. And for each of the videos, we're going to display an image class that's going to have the thumbnail of the video that we fetched. And then if I move over here, you'll notice that I've captured the video number on a data tag, and when the user clicks on the video, it's going to call the play video method. And so up here in play video, we're going to set the selected video to the video number that he clicked on, and set the state so that the state will represent the new selected video. And then back in the render method, when that gets recalled, you'll see that if the video being displayed is the selected video, I'm displaying an iframe instead of the image tag. And that causes the video to start up, and that's basically how it works.
Very cool. Does anybody have any questions for Russ? I think it's really neat to see how you can just pull in existing components like CoverFlow and the others and just incorporate them into the SharePoint framework stuff, which really saves a lot of work.
Yeah, there's so many of those components out there, and it's just a matter of trial and error to find one that works well for your needs.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing the demo and walking us through kind of the process of how you found the component that worked for you.
Great. Thanks.
All right, we'll switch back to the slides here. So thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Russell. Both of you guys, awesome demos. Really appreciate it. A reminder for anybody who would like to do a demo like this on the call, please let myself or Vesa know, and we'll make sure to get you on the schedule. We're always really excited to see what the community comes up with. I think it's really great to see the different approaches, different libraries. For example, Vue.js is something I personally haven't gotten to use much, so it's really cool to see it. And I know I'm going to go learn a little bit more about it after this call. And then thanks to everybody for the interest there. So we do have a little bit more time, so we can reopen the open discussion. So are there other questions we didn't get to previously, or that folks have come up with since the other discussion, either around the demos or around the SharePoint framework? So Sergey's got a question, probably Vesa, I don't know if you would have any insight on that, migrating SPFx build pipeline to Webpack 2?
No insights on that one. I don't think we will do that before GA. So
I haven't heard anything about that. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move to close out. So our next meeting is going to be February 16th. Look forward to seeing everybody there. Again, if you'd like to do a demo or something on these calls, please do let us know. Would love to have you on the agenda and get you involved. I think it's really valuable for all of us to see what the community is doing and learning from each other. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining the call. I think this was a record attendance today. Oh, now we got a few questions coming in.
So what was the question from Joe? This was probably already answered on the previous call, but will there be available new web parts on classic pages? New out-of-the-box web parts on classic pages. New out-of-the-box web parts on classic pages. Good question, actually. Right now, the modern web parts are only available in the modern pages because they're using, well, they don't have a dependency on Canvas, but still. I'm not sure. I can actually double check from the guys who are responsible for web parts, but good question, actually. I haven't even thought about that one.
Cool. And on that note, we'll close out for the week. Thanks all. Appreciate it. See you guys at the next meeting, and everybody have a great rest of the week and weekend. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.